Am I the butthole for saying to my brother that his kid's future isn't my problem? I, female 23, lost my dad 3 years ago. It's been hard, and in that time I needed someone, and none of my siblings were there for me. I have a different dad from them, and that kind of drove a wedge between them and me. He was in my life more than their dad was, and I guess for that they hated me. My dad was really well off, and in his will, he basically left everything to me. With the help of my uncle, I was able to learn what things needed to be done so I can claim what he left and learn how to properly manage a house and car. Anyways, it's a big house. It's 4-bedroom, 2-bath. My best friend currently lives with me. I use the other 2 as a study room and art room. My brother, male 31, has been talking to me lately about the house. He currently lives in a 2-bedroom apartment with his wife and 2 kids, 6 and 8. He's been looking for an upgrade and basically figured I'd be willing to sell the house to him. I told him I didn't want to sell the house, but I'd help him look for one. He said no and that he wanted mine. His wife likes how spacious it is, and the backyard is large enough for the kids to play and for them to get a dog. My brother went on about how I didn't need a house because I'm young and don't have a family, so it'll benefit him more than me. It was hard for me to say no, but I did and felt bad enough about it. He and his wife have been calling and texting nonstop asking if I'd changed my mind. The final straw was when my brother called and said I was putting my niece and nephew's future at stake by forcing them to be stuck in a small apartment when they need more space to learn and grow. I feel like I'm the butthole because my reply to that was their future is not my concern, nor is it my problem, and I left it at that. My other brother says I'm being selfish to only think about myself and not care for my brother and his family. He agrees with him and believe I don't need a large house because it's just me, and they believe I don't know how to own a house like an adult. Am I the butthole? Damn. I went to sleep and woke up with so many replies. My PMs are filled with people calling me a liar and a bad sister for putting my friend above my family. For one, I'm not lying. I'd never in 100 years lie about something like this. I was hesitant in posting because of this exact reason. I really can't prove I'm not lying without exposing personal details, so if you can't take my word for it, I'm sorry. And two, my friend is the closest thing I had to having a sister. She was there for me through thick and thin. I read the comments and thank you for the tips and suggestions. I'm going to get in contact with my uncle today and talk to him about it, and if needed, I'll find a lawyer. Also, I do realize I could have worded it better and been, so I think I owe him an apology for that much. One more thing about the questions on why he wanted my house specifically. A lot of things come into play. All around, it's in the perfect place as it's close to many places like grocery stores, schools, and close to his job. He did offer me a price once before, but it was less than half of what the house was worth, and I already knew if I accepted it, I'd be a joke. And to add, thanks for the rewards, y'all are too nice. NTA first, it's your house to do whatever you want with. Second, if he can afford a house of that size, he can afford another house of that size. What he really means is sell me the house super cheap, or even give me the house, and then, even money says he'd flip it in a couple of years anyway. Sorry you're having to go through this. What he really means is sell me the house super cheap, or even give me the house, and then, even money says he'd flip it in a couple of years anyway. Exactly. I'd lay odds that there are plenty of 4-bed houses with large yards in the area, but only one whose owner the brother thinks he can badger into letting him have the house for a song because we're family. It does seem extremely unlikely this is the only house in town. Also, living in a 2-bedroom apartment didn't keep them from having 2 children. A spacious house and large yard apparently weren't essential before the op's father died. There are hundreds of thousands of people in large cities like NYC that live their whole lives and raise children in apartments. A house with a yard is a want, not a need. Exactly. A 2-bedroom apartment is fine. It was fine when they had their children. It's fine now. Would a big house with a yard be nice? Sure, but the kids aren't going to be scarred forever without it. If the original poster never inherited this house, the brother and his wife would hardly knock on the door of a random stranger to demand their house. It's fine, but for everybody involved, privacy would be the strange thing everybody is talking about on the internet. Source: my family lived as 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. My family lived as 5 people in a 2-bedroom apartment. My husband grew up in Spain and there were 5 kids and 2 adults in their small apartment. The 3 boys shared a small room and the 2 girls shared another. No wonder he moved out as soon as he turned 18 hectares, huh? Regardless, it can be done and everyone turned out great. As you can imagine, they all know how to share. I thought this same thing too. This mentality that each child needs their own bedroom is weird. It's not necessarily true. Sure, after a while, if you had a boy and a girl in one room, eventually they should get separate rooms because of anatomical reasons, but 2 or 3 girls can share a room. Or 2 or 3 boys can share a room. I used to watch House Hunters, the show, and shake my head at the people searching for houses, saying we have 3 kids, so we need a 5-bedroom house, but it's so hard to find one in our budget. Poor me. No, you don't need one room for each individual child. What you need to teach your kids to share and respect boundaries so that they can harmoniously share a living space and so you can find a house you can afford in a neighborhood you like. I grew up 3 girls in one room. My friend grew up 6 people in a 3-bedroom house. You can make it work. I grew up 3 girls in one room. My friend grew up 6 people in a 3-bedroom house. You can make it work. I mean, yeah, you can make it work. That doesn't mean it's the best option. Just in an example, I was a very anxious child. It was absolute torture for me growing up, not having a space I could retreat to for solitude when things got overwhelming, to the point that I begged my parents to let me have the storage room as my bedroom instead of sharing with my sister. It was smallest room in the house. And I'm not even sure it technically qualified as a bedroom in the legal sense. It was more of an oversized closet. But I was so much happier in there. Sometimes if you adopt it, or for other reasons you actually do have to have a room for each child. Evidence right here. My mom and her 2 brothers grew up in a 3-bedroom apt in the city. Her and her 2 brothers raised each of their 2 kids in 2-bedroom apartments. It may help that we were all boys, so sharing a bedroom is easier if you are kids of the same sex. Growing up in New York City, I also saw many kids sharing bedrooms as well, so it wasn't that big of a deal. I shared a room with my little bro, 7 years younger, when he was a baby/toddler. It's fine. Also, we at one point had 3.5 bedrooms for 2 adults and 5 kids. The 0.5 is my joke about the room my dad put into another room that was very small for one sibling. As adults, we choose to still cram into that house with partners and kids because it's not that hard to live cooperatively if you just think about the needs of others. Op is NTA, plus who is to say your brother can afford the upkeep on a house that sized if he needs you to give him a deep discount? Very true. I lived with my parents and sister in a studio for 12 years before my parents bought their house, and we did just fine. We became professionals. The brother is just being mean. I was thinking this too. Exactly this. If brother is worried about his kid's future, then he should have done better family planning. Not Op's problem them at all. Edit, spelling. I'll rent to own it, just sign over the title. You know I'm good for it. Oh, if they were to not go through a bank, he would never pay. Exactly, not the butthole your brothers need to grow up. They were not there for you when your father passed, and they are now acting super entitled and leeching off of you. No is a proper answer, and stand your ground. You could also give them exaggerated estimates on the house value and add extra to it and say you won't sell for less than it. That would probably shut them up, since it seems that they are expecting a really low price or a handout. Your niece and nephew have little to do with it, so they need to stop with the guilt tripping. Even if he was supportive of original poster, that doesn't entitle him to a house. I was thinking the same thing. Give them an offer they have to refuse and just say tough luck, but you want your money's worth. Your brother and his wife wouldn't be able to afford the house even if you sold cheaper, so they'd lose the house anyhow. There's no reason original poster should even do that. Just say thank you for the interest, but I am not looking to sell my house and move out at this time. Or better yet, just say no and block these leeches. Exactly. The house is Op's. She lives there and she is not selling. Giving a high price would only open the possibility for negotiations. It's not clear enough. Say outright no. Not the butthole. Their argument is basically, give me your house, I want it. If they were willing to pay market rates, they could find a house anywhere, but they don't. I am sure you pay above market rates when you want to take someone's current house. Wait, what? No wonder I haven't been getting any replies back. I've been lowballing people and harassing them over messages. Funny, the new trend now is, because the market is so hot in places, is for the potential buyers to actually write application essays about why they want the house. An elderly couple we knew down the street just sold their house, and told us the new young couple wrote a letter, talking about their yard would be one that our daughter, and son on the way, will love playing in, and how they appreciate how well they have maintained the house. So yeah, basically, we have young kids, so you should sell the house to us. Apparently, their agent told us this is the new thing, because the market is so hot right now. I bought a house recently. My agent told me the same thing about writing a letter to the seller. As he put it, if they have a better deal, it probably won't matter, but if they're deciding between two basically equivalent deals, then it could be the tiebreaker item if they feel you'll care for the house the way they did. This is true. That's how we decided on the last sale. We never got any letters though, but we knew all the potential buyers and what they wanted to do with it. When it came to a tie with bidding, we sold to the person who would use it for themselves instead of renting it out. Man, I recently heard a story about this happening in LA to a couple with a beautifully restored historical property. This guy and his wife wrote an application essay like that about kids and whatnot, and the couple sold the house to them. Turns out the buyers were huge landowners and ended up tearing the house down to build more contemporary units. That should be illegal, dude. Yeah, the real estate agents should be trusted to disclose people lying like that. That's really sad for the previous owners. I know I'd feel sad and if I were selling my childhood home and got duped like that. Seems like all the comments from letter writers mentions kids and starting a family. Laughing my butt off. That would be the hint that it would go directly in the trash for me. My husband and I did write a letter to our seller when we bought our house. We did offer asking price and the house was on the market for over a month and had been reduced in price. This made us think that she wanted to sell quickly. We mentioned our black lab, and how beautiful the house was and how we wanted to start a family, but once again, did offer asking price. The owner decided to sell to us without waiting for another offer after reading the letter, even though there was talk of another coming in. While I think the letter may have swayed her, I think our price offer also did. The market is so difficult right now that buyers will do anything to sway a seller to accepting their offer. We bought our home last year. Same thing, we wrote a letter to the former owner. We were one of 13 offers. Usually, bid wars start and letters don't matter. However, our former owner had just purchased a $5 million home. No bid war, he couldn't be bothered. We won with the letter. We were prepared to go way over asking. But he picked us without a counter offer. A unicorn deal. When we got our house, we didn't write a letter and offered a couple thousand lower than asking. We know they had a few better offers, but they chose to sell to us because we were a young family and they had lived in that home for 50 years and hoped the neighborhood would continue to be a good place for families like ours. It was their parents' home who had recently passed, so selling the home was quite personal to them, I guess. Many other houses around ours are now rentals. We are close to the university. So we can now understand why they preferred a family to sell to. Not that all renters are bad, of course. But there are also plenty that are just annoying to live near. I am sure you pay above market rates when you want to take someone's current house. No idea what you mean? My comment was that the brother didn't want to pay market rate. Yeah, but I think the idea is that, in a normal situation, you would definitely pay more, above market rate, if whoever's living there doesn't even want to sell their house. Yes, 2 times now my partner's aunt and uncle built really nice houses as forever homes and then had people approach them with offers way above market value even though they're not looking to sell. They figured they can always build their forever home again elsewhere. They have become accidental property developers. I have no interest in moving, but if someone came along and wanted my house badly enough to offer 50% above market price, I'd be out the door in a second. I love my house. I've lived in it for 25 years. It's a great house in a great location. That said, for the right price, I'd move tomorrow. At the end of the day, it's just a house. Just an FYI, that's not correct. At least not in the US. I own a business that works exclusively with contacting people whose house is not on the market and asking if they'd consider selling it to us directly instead of putting it on the market if they are interested in selling. They still receive market value. Sometimes even less, because by selling directly to someone instead of using an agent they avoid tons of fees. I am guessing buying from a reluctant homeowner would be an extra cost. I do not work in this industry, but was going on what I would do if someone wanted to buy my house and I didn't want to sell. That line of thought makes sense. However, in my experience, if someone doesn't want to sell their house, they won't sell it even if you drastically up the buying price. After all, it's not just a house, it's their home. But I'm sure that can't speak for everybody. You more than likely find people in distress, so not the same. Original poster isn't in distress, isn't tired of owning, and enjoys her house. If she needs motivation to move, you would need to make it sweet for her. This made me giggle because I always have to tell my preschoolers sharing isn't give it to me because I want it, but when you're done may I have a turn. Obviously original poster doesn't and shouldn't share. Stand your ground and go and see if they don't stop. You don't need to keep toxic and entitled people in your life just because they are family. If your brother wanted a house for his kids, he should have thought of that before having kids. Not the butthole. NTA. And they can F right off with their ridiculous entitlement. The house is your inheritance, it's your home, and they have no right to make demands, or to try and guilt or manipulate you into selling. The only people not acting like adults in this situation is them. Not to mention, the house probably has huge sentimental value to original poster as it was left to her by her deceased dad. I wouldn't be surprised if original poster wanted to live there for the rest of her life, and raise her future kids in it. Or just live there. Not everyone wants to have kids. Whilst you are totally correct, I think that the fact that original poster might want to raise kids there was mentioned because the brother, allegedly, wants to raise his own children there. Indeed. Please talk to your roommate or a friend about this so you have an accountability partner so your brother and his wife don't badger you to the point you give in. I second the accountability buddy. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.